Hi, this video reviews your Chapter 1 mid-chapter quiz, and I'm going over the solutions to the problems. That way, those of you that want to make corrections can watch the video and make your corrections. So on number 1, you have to evaluate. So that's our keyword. In other words, we're going to plug in our numbers for our variables and simplify. So for x, I'm going to plug in 12, for y 3, and for z a 2. Now I can start to make this smaller. So I would do 12 times 3, which is 36. Then minus 12 times 2 is 24. And on the denominator, 3 times 2 is 6. So on the top, I get 12 over 6. If you divide, you get 2 as your answer. On the next problem, our keyword is also to evaluate, but this time we're plugging in 4 for n and negative 3 for a. I highlighted this problem because that meant this was a common mistake between students on the quiz. So next, I'm going to use my PEMDAS. So I'm going to simplify my exponents. So 4 squared means we're doing 4 times 4, which is 16. So this becomes 3 times 16. Next, I want to do any multiplication I see. So 3 times 16 is 48. Here I have minus. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So that becomes negative 6 times 4. And then negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. So my problem becomes 48 minus negative 24. And here's where a lot of students made mistakes. A lot of you just did 48 minus 24 and put 24 as your answer. So that was a common mistake here. But on this problem, since you have minus negative 24, it's actually going to change to 48 plus 24. And if you add those, you get 72 as your answer. On the top step, some of you might have done negative 2. So here, if I copy the problem, some of you might have treated this like a negative 2 times negative 3, which is fine, because then you get 6 times 4, but that's a positive 24. So since it's positive, your problem becomes plus. So you still should have made it into a plus either way you went about it. The next problem wanted to know the set of numbers to which negative 7 belong. So some of these, like for example, irrational, those are your decimals that never end. Here, natural numbers and whole numbers don't have negatives. So again, whole numbers don't have negatives. So our answer was the first one. So this is an integer. And remember, if it's an integer, it can also be rational. It can also be real. So natural numbers would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Whole numbers include the number 0. Your integers include the negative whole numbers. And then your rationals are just numbers that can be written as fractions or decimals. This could be written negative 7.0, and all numbers are real. Question 4 wanted the additive inverse of 3.8. So additive inverse, all you do is you change the sign. So that becomes a negative 3.8. So the answer was this last one. Number 5 was highlighted. That means there was common mistakes here. This one wants the multiplicative inverse. For that, you just take the reciprocal, which means you flip the fraction. So here we flip 2 over 3. It becomes positive 3 over 2. So the answer was this one here. A lot of you put negative 3 halves as your answer. So a lot of you changed the sign by accident. So the answer was positive 3 over 2. Number 6, we're solving an equation. So here we would distribute. 6 times x is 6x. And then 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. I'm going to put an imaginary 1 in front of my x. Here I have variables on both sides. I need to undo one of those. I'm going to undo my 1x. So I get 5x minus 30 equals positive 5. Here my 5 is stuck to x, so I'm going to add 30 next. And my last step would be to divide 5. So the answer for x is a 7. On question 7, our keyword is to simplify. So again, sorry, make sure that you're always identifying your keywords. So in 6 it was solve, 7 it's to simplify. So here I'm going to distribute 1/2 times 8y is 4y, and 1/2 times negative 10z would be negative 5z. Here I don't have a number, so I'm going to put an imaginary 1. So negative 1 times 3y is negative 3y, and negative 1 times 1z would be negative 1z. From there, you want to combine like terms. So I can combine 4y minus 3y and negative 5z minus 1z. 4y minus 3y is 1y, and negative 5z minus 1z is negative 6z, because when you have the same signs, you add and keep. So the answer here was actually y minus 6z. A lot of students put y minus 4z as the answer. That was not the answer. So I'm thinking a lot of you left it as a plus 1z on this step and forgot to distribute. And then you got 4 when you did negative 5 plus 1. Or some of you might have ignored the negative in front of the 5 and then just did 5 minus 1 is 4. But here it's negative 5 minus 1. Same signs you add and keep, so you get a negative 6. On question 8, I'm going to distribute. So negative 2 times 3y is negative 6y. And negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Then 4 times 5y is positive 20y. And 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. From there, I want to combine like terms. So here I would combine negative 6y plus 20y. That means I'm doing negative 6 plus 20, which is 14. So I get 14y. Then I'm going to combine positive 12 and negative 32. That means I'm doing 12 minus 32, which is a negative 20. From here I can continue to solve. So my 14 stuck to y. I'll do plus 20 next. That gives me 112. And now if you divide by 14 for y, you're going to get an 8 as your answer. Most of you had done well on this problem. So now number 9, there was also a lot of mistakes. Here we're solving for the letter A. So I have P equals, again my keyword here is solving. So always identify your keywords. So P equals 2A plus B. And we're solving for A. So here, I'm trying to get A by itself. Right now it's stuck to the 2. So I need to get rid of my B first by doing minus B. Here I would just write it out. P minus B equals 2A. Now in the next step, to undo multiplying 2, we would divide 2. So now A is by itself. So it equals P minus B over 2. A lot of you on this one put this answer, which was incorrect. So what some of you did is you only divided the P by 2. So you might have divided 2 on your first step instead of on your last step where everything gets divided by 2. So the answer was this one right here. Question 10, there was also a lot of mistakes. Here the keyword is property. So when it's associative property, that's where they change the grouping. I like to think of it as who was hanging out, so they change who was hanging out in the parentheses. The identity property wouldn't cover a lot. Distributive property is when they multiply what's on the outside by everything on the inside. And then the commutative property is where they switch the order of variables and or numbers. So if you look here, yes, this one has parentheses. So a lot of you put associative property because you saw parentheses. But if you look at what's hanging out in the parentheses, in both parentheses, X and Y are hanging out. So they didn't change who's hanging out. So this one is not the associative property. So that one was wrong. If you look carefully, they're actually switching the order of X and Y. Here X comes first, then Y. Here Y comes first, then X. So here, since they switched the order, that's your commutative property. So that was the correct answer for that one. Again, a lot of you made a common mistake there. If you're going to correct your quiz, make sure that you use the GEMAS process. You can do that on a blank paper. I'm going to attach that so that you can review it as well.